pretty much the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, I started playing a lot of shows with Jesse Wilson. And I know there's other people that feel the same way I do about kind of teaming up with another musician and going out there and doing something. I've seen a couple posts about it at the end of the year. One of them actually from a recent guest on the podcast. Kind of sparked my interest in this thought process. But I mean, I recently had Jesse on and I talked about it a little bit. Like, I probably wouldn't be out there playing as many shows if it wasn't for him. And on top of that, it's not like he wouldn't be able to play as many shows without me. He's shown that he's really adaptable to other musicians. And I mean, I've kind of shown that to an extent this year as well, where I've been able to do side gigs with other musicians. And I had a couple of people hit me up to do one-off gigs with them and things like that. So it is kind of fun to be able to go and stretch your wings out with other people. But I do feel like being able to play with Jesse and go to play a new style of music and at new venues and play those longer sets where if you've been listening to this podcast for the last few years, you will notice that in the beginning I was pretty much just a punk rock style musician. Those were my main gigs, and I'd play anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. Sometimes we'd play the rare 2-hour long punk rock set, but we'd do things like that. But I was always interviewing these people that were in cover bands or singer-songwriters and things like that, and it's like, how in the world do you go about covering 4 hours? It's mind-blowing. So needless to say, I've ventured into that area this year, and it was tough at first. I'm sure Jesse will say the same thing. Those 4-hour gigs, they're killer. They're long, and I mean, we even did one where we played 4 and they paid us to play another hour, and then they paid us to play another half an hour. And it's like, holy cow. I mean, how much time can you actually fill? But once again, that goes back to playing with Jesse. He's adaptable to a lot of those things, where he's not scared to try and cover a song. Even if he doesn't know how it goes, he'll see if he can do it on the fly, and a lot of times it's really good. I mean, there's some songs where based on a request he's added it to his set list. So that's one of, like I said, one of my favorite things about playing along with Jesse is I have to adapt to what he's doing, and things aren't as cut and dry as they would have been, in the punk rock days or like the metal days when I was in a metal band there for a while. About a year I was in Unity, band from Iowa, and we played shows across Iowa and even into the Chicago area and stuff like that. So that was tons of fun to be able to play shows with them. But like I said, a lot of those shows were like, it's not as chiseled out as this, but it's pretty much like, here's the notes, you got to play them, and we're going to play it really fast, and this is the time frame that you're slotted for, and you have to set up and be done and in a certain amount of time, and that was something else I was kind of like conveying at a recent jam night when some people were setting up, and I was like, it is kind of weird because I went through two completely different setup processes. When you play those 4-hour long shows, you can kind of just show up, an hour early or whatever and set your stuff up and do a little sound check, or maybe show up even earlier so you have more time to do all this stuff. Or maybe you go play at a club venue and you're only slotted for a half an hour, and they give you 10 minutes to set up before the show.